Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today someone who has the legacy of C. Dot and was responsible for the delivery of several vintage products at Hughes Software Systems like the SS7 and the Citron stacks, not to forget the monumental soft switch. He is someone with a keen knowledge of finance and is a legal eagle for contracts in software business. He looks like an army man himself and has been known to work and deliver like a military man leading a platoon of gallant software engineers. His name might confuse us with the fragrance of a flower, but he is really a raging fire when it comes to work and delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today the managing director of Nagarro, Gulshan Kumar. Gulshan, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. Prashant, you have a flowery language. So I, of course, don't smell like a flower, even if my name is means it's a garden, right? And I'm basically, let's say, a worker. I do stuff, and I had always had great teams. But you are exaggerating a bit, but I'll take that as a compliment and move on.
So, Gulshan, you finished your bachelor's in commerce from Shriram College of Commerce in 1985 and followed it up with an MCA from Department of Computer Science, Delhi University in 1988. How did you get this visionary idea of jumping into the world of computers in as early as 1985 instead of pursuing a natural progression at that time after your BCom, say an MCom or an MBA or even civil services?
Yeah, interesting. Actually, I had no idea what MCA meant or what computers were. I have never seen a computer before I joined MCA, and it was maybe a few accidents here and there that got me into an MCA. Uh, I was doing well at school, and it was expected that I'll do science. My father was coming from a middle class family. Nobody in our family had ever studied science, right? My sisters had done their arts courses, right? And now, let's say I did science in school as a natural option, being doing well, and after my 12th, and while let's say, as I said, my father was uh, is a small time shopkeeper. He had a shop in Old Delhi, and I was possibly trained from a childhood that when I grow up, I'll join his business and support him. Right. So after 12th, I had an option of either go to Delhi College of Engineering. Right. Then I thought, if I have to do this business, why do engineering? And I joined SRCC. Right. So it was not that it was planned to join SRCC, and that was my target, but I ended up doing BCom honors. Right. And after BCom honors, then you rightly said that the natural progression should have been possibly an MBA or a CA or something. I let's say my aspirations also increased because all my friends there were children of top government officials who were studying in SRCC. Let's say, but there were very few people like me who were coming from a middle class background with not a great education in the family background, right? So I thought I'd do an MBA. I did prepare for FMS, right? And I could have done a CA as well, but looking at all my friends who were going to the top accounting firms because of their connection for articleship, I had no such option. My sister used to work for a bank, and she talked to her manager, and this guy sent me to a place in Shankar Market in Connaught Place. I don't know whether you have seen that or heard that place. I took my resume there after BCom, and he looked at it and he said, "When are you going to join in?" I said, that was, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. And I said, okay, I'll come from Monday. From there, I took a bus from North Place to Delhi University to look at it. What happened to the entrance exam that I had given for FMS? My name was there, but it was waitlisted. Right. And Then incidentally, I had a week before my FMS entrance, there was the MCA entrance that it came in the newspaper. I looked at the syllabus. It sounded similar to what was FMS, Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University, FMS, MBA entrance for that. That used to be a separate entrance for that course at that point of time. And I saw the syllabus was similar, and this MCA entrance was 1 week before FMS entrance. So I thought, okay, and it was costing 15 rupees. I put a postal order and applied for MCA. And have looking at my FMS result waitlisted, I thought, okay, let me go and also check what happened to MCA. And I had already cleared the entrance and interview, and my name was there for the admission. Now I got confused. What should I do? Right? I asked around what is the right option. CA, I was not very enthused because the Shankar marketplace that I went to, it was like a typewriting school with several people sitting there doing some work. Maybe there were some typewriters also on which they were working during those days. So I wasn't very keen, but didn't know what to do. I talked around. I went to my school, talked to my teachers, and one of them jokingly said, MCA is any day better than CA because it has an additional M. And I joined MCA. So this is how I started. So it was not, let's say, any visionary thought that doing. So I just, it was some ad hoc decisions, and I landed up in MCA. In fact, after joining, let's say, CDOT or even HSS, for quite some time, I kept this hidden. The SRCC never showed up on my resume because somehow I thought that it could be construed negative for my telecom career. So I included SRCC only after I joined Nagarro, because Nagarro was more like an enterprise. We were doing enterprise applications for our clients, and that is different from core telecom, which is considered to be more telecom was considered to be more engineering focused or science focused industry. So this is how the so-called visionary idea that you say, how it happened because of some ad hoc decisions here and there.
Excellent. We'll come to your telecom career in just a bit. But for the moment, do tell us something about your student days while you were in the SRCC and even in the Delhi University. Were you shy kinds or a vocal student participating in the debates? Were you popular amongst your friends, or you were a nerdy geek busy with your, I dare say, Pascal and Fortran programming books of those days?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was a vocal student, or in fact, I wasn't. School, we were doing a lot of extracurricular activities, right? And but college, I didn't do anything. I was not, let's say, geeky or whatever, not studying too much. But of course, I'll attend all classes, and then will also study well before the exams, but not that I'll do that for 15 hours a day every day. Never did that. And in fact, whenever I'll find time, I'll go to my father's shop and help him also during BCom honors. Of course, during MCA, those guys will give us a lot of programming exercise, and that would keep us busy every day. You have to, and let's say those days the resources were there were hardly any resources even in the college or the department part of it. We had to wait for our shifts on computers for doing our programming. We couldn't even think of having a computer at home, right? Whatever limited facilities were there in the department, we had to wait for that to be allocated to us, right? And so you book it in advance and all those things. So that kept us busy, and department was very small at that point of time, just 30 of us in a batch, and department had 5 rooms, 3 classrooms, and one and 2 labs, right? And so nothing to do during MCA time anyway.
Excellent. And after doing your MCA, you joined the premier organization CDOT in 1988, where you worked till 1996 when you had reached the position of the senior program manager. How was it like working in Sam Petroda's team alongside the likes of Sam, Sood, Mao, and Adesh at CDOT?
Yeah. Oh, that was interesting. In fact, let's say at MCA, we CDOT was considered to be some of our seniors like CP Murli were from that college, and there were several other people in CDOT, and we used to hear good stories about CDOT, and that used to be the option one job for us, right? And so CDOT story is also pretty interesting. I will say that CDOT, we approached CDOT that they should come to our campus for hiring, but because of some internal dynamics that year, CDOT decided that they are not going to any campuses, right? But due to our, I think, our professor who was in touch with the folks at CDOT, CDOT was doing open interviews at Vishwa Yoga Kendra in Chanakyapuri, and so he got a deal with some folks at CDOT, and they accommodated all 30 of us over 3 days. So 6 sessions, every session they say, apart from the other interviewers that they have, interviewees that they have invited, they will accommodate 5 of us in each of those sessions, right? So I appeared there, and then after that, the CDOT result didn't come in, and I got a job at DCM data processing system, DCM DP, and DCM was considered to be a good system programming job. And those days we used to think that application related jobs are not good, and system programming is the real thing to do. So it was considered to be good, but then I had done well in MCA, and I and another colleague, another classmate of mine, we picked up the networking for our internship. We picked up the first preference was that at NIC they were doing a networking internship, and so we went to NIC for our internship, and then there the guy said, "Oh, sorry, we have killed that project. But given you are come here, why don't you do an MIS?" We said, "Oh man, we thought we picked up the first preference. We'll do networking program here as part of internship, and this guy is offering us an MIS. Why should we do?" We went back to our department, cried in front of our professor, and then he said, "Okay, let me check." He spoke to some of our seniors at CDOT, and then I got my internship at CDOT itself. So now, let's say at CDOT, my internship was over, and but CDOT had still not. There was some technical issue. CDOT had from it was created under an act of the parliament, and it had the permission to have only 1,000 people, and the company had reached that limit, and it was taking time for CDOT to get a permission from government to extend this number. And so they said, "You have been selected, you are in the list, but sorry, you can't join right now because we don't have a permission." Right now, what to do with my DCM DP job, which was already in my hand, but my manager at CDOT, and I was in a SIDE group, not in the mainstream software switch, the digital switch that we were working on, on which Mao and Sood were working, right? And so this guy said that given your name is there, so whenever this gets finalized, you will get an offer. And meanwhile, if you want to I can give you a temporary job, consulting assignment, maybe 3,000 rupees a month. And when we get a confirmation here, then you can join it from that day. So they gave me a 3 months of temp assignment, but after 1.5 months, the CDOT got the permission and I got an offer letter, and the same day I joined the company. So I joined in the SS7 group there, which was not in the mainstream at that time, right? And we were doing some writing some code, some doing some demos and POCs, and but we were not, because everybody busy. The main software release folks, people like Mao and Vinod and others, they were busy on the we getting ready for the Alsur, which was the first office application for a 10,000 line switch, and they were busy there, and we were sitting aside, looking at what exciting things are happening in the company. But then another thing happened, that from the call processing I was doing call processing for the SS7 there, and the manager in the call processing team, in the main stream, he wanted some help, and he somehow convinced my manager that Gulshan should join his team, and then he can do both. He can do SS7 call processing also, and he can also get involved in other stuff. And that was a significant move from my career point of view, that I got into the mainstream part of it, right, and got involved in several other stuff, including the first 10K line switch that we were working on, and so on and so forth. So let's say, I never worked with Vinod during my CDOT days, but then for a brief period, almost a year, I was part of Mao's team. Mao was my second level manager there, right before Mao moved to HSS.
Awesome. And I dare say SS7 itself was a privilege to work upon back in the 80s, because that was at that time state of the art. But you finally left CDOT in 1996 to join Hughes Software Systems. I believe you were pulled in by Vinod Sood, who was already at HSS by that time. So tell us the story about how Vinod approached you, and what did he exactly tell you which convinced you to leave everything at the country's premier organization, CDOT, and take a career-defining decision to join HSS?
Yeah, it was, of course, Vinod was the one who interviewed me for my job at HSS. But I was pulled in because Vinod, I had never worked with Vinod, and Vinod possibly hardly knew me from CDOT days, right? Of course, he would have seen me there and would have known my name, but we never worked together. I was pulled in by CP Murli, Mao's team at that time. So I was doing V5. I had done V5.2 implementation in CDOT switch after doing SS7 and others. I was actually responsible for what Mao used to do at one point of time when he was my second level manager. That was what I was doing when I left CDOT. It was basically being responsible for the call processing team, billing and administration, the let's say the telephone billing, the switch billing, and the administration part of it. I was involved in that, and my team, in my call processing team, I had done V5.2 implementation, and HSS had a client who wanted to do V5.2 in their switch. That was Harris Corporation, Harris Digital Telephone System, part of Harris Corporation. And they had a small PBX, which they wanted to convert that to a central office, to a main exchange. And they were thinking of doing V5.2. And so HSS was in discussion with them for that. And then so CP asked me to come over and said, we would like to talk to you. And so, and then Vinod and some other cool folks interviewed me, and I got selected and joined in 1996. Right. Still remember that first day when I joined. Adesh was possibly traveling at that time, and Geeta, I still have that joining letter from Geeta Arora at that time, and Geeta made us sit in Adesh's office, where I and another colleague, Amit Mathur, I don't know if he was there for a very short time in the company. He was part of the IT team at that time. I and he are filling our blue form that you were the one that you fill on the joining day. We are filling our blue form, and I look at onto my left and said, "How come this guy is copying my date of birth?" So he had the same date of birth as I had, and even the year. And maybe our stars, I thought maybe our stars got us here together. Of course, after some days or some couple of years, he took a different journey altogether. So stars was possibly just a one coincidence and not much. So this is how I started at HSS.
Right, and that's how your glorious innings began at HSS, where you headed the engineering delivery for products business with one of the first stacks developed at HSS, namely the V5 5.2, which you mentioned, which saw a great business success. You took the ownership of SS7 and delivered the Sigtran as a follow-up. This really paved the way for the success of the products business at HSS, for which I don't think you often get enough credit. Would you like us to walk through how were your earlier years at HSS doing all this great work from 1996 to 2000? Perhaps remembering your favorite incidents and the people you worked with.
Yeah, so let's say V5.2, I have done that implementation in C dot switch, but we didn't know what is a stack, right? And Mao had decided that maybe we'll build a stack and then we'll license this as a product, right? And so I was shipped to Harris office, and I was doing a bunch of their engineers who didn't know V5.2. I was doing a session with them, walking them through the V5.2 protocol. How does it work between switch and the access network? And then they had experience of working on SS7 stack from Trillium, and they were asking questions from me. Does your stack do this, or does your stack has this problem? I had no idea what the stack will be. It was maybe a couple of weeks after I joined HSS. I was meeting them and talking to them. So whatever logical, if they said your stack does this, if I saw that they were expecting that to be part of the stacks, I was yes, of course it has. And when their questions were negative, do you have this problem? I'll say, no, we don't have that problem. And I was on the side, I was noting down their questions and trying to understand what kind of animal this protocol stack is, right? And then we built this V5.2 stack. And then, of course, several other stacks came into the company, one after the other. And of course, yeah, soft switch. And I don't know when you say whether I got enough credit or not for the product business. I possibly maybe if you say so, I will accept that. Though I never ever thought about it before. I never thought about it this earlier. I was, let's say, getting newer assignments continuously at HSS. my role, my contribution in the business was increasing, and I thought that was a good recognition of my efforts. I was quite excited on whatever I was doing, and whatever opportunities I got there. Uh, in my understanding, I was doing well.
That's the heart of a good man speaking. But any talk about your career in general and your career at HSS in particular would be incomplete without the mention of the soft switch project.
Uh,
Would you like to tell our viewers completely your side of the story regarding how the soft switch project was conceived, how you went on to lead that, and how you went about delivering it with all of its famous challenges?
yeah, so we had many protocol stacks and so the components to start with, um, and the soft switch companies were commanding great valuation, right? We had Aarti Khanna, and who was part of our product management team, and Ajay, who was the BU leader for BU head for products business there, and there were a bunch of other people. Obviously, let's say, and it was an exciting thing to do something which was commanding such high valuation in the industry. And we got our first paying customer who was willing to license this from HSS, right? And so we let's say we looked at their requirement, and whatever was their prioritized list, we decided to start working on the soft switch from that point of at that point of time, right? And of course, in the organization, there were difference of opinion in terms of should that kind of investment be committed for soft switch or not, right? And this is and we were not the resource allocation, we had committed certain timeline on the release delivery to the client, but we didn't have enough resources allocated, or the requirement that we had, they were not allocated to the team as such. And then I think there were some escalations, internal and external, and Adesh stepped in as a program manager for soft switch. And then and this was a pretty large program. I think at one point of time, maybe 125 or more colleagues were working on it. A large part of as part of my team, and then of course the product quality testing team, PQT team, which was checking or verifying the software that we are developing. And there was another team which was building some of the features for the soft switch, but outside the product team, maybe they had bandwidth available as they were part of one of the services team there. And then we went about doing it. So by the time we really got everybody onboarded on the team, the first release of the switch, which was soft switch, which we had committed to the client, was already getting over, right? And so it was and it's a huge commitment in terms of the kind of timeline and the kind of features that we had committed to the client. So on day one, it came in a, you can say, in an escalated mode. We had to start working on it. And so I was fortunate that I had a great team. Everybody in the team stretched. Yeah, sometime it would have been, I'm sure it would have been difficult for a pretty long stretch. We worked almost 7 days a week, and it was stretch working for almost everybody in the team. And I in fact remember that we had in couple of Gurgaon hotels. One was, I think, Plaza Solitaire, and there was another one on the old Gurgaon road. We had standing reservation for certain rooms, that if our guys walk in, our admin had set it up that at walk in at night they should be able to get a room. And so people, when this used to be foggy days, and so we had it was, I had clearly told everyone that don't go home when it's a foggy day. It's very risky. Right, traveling back, if you're traveling back at 1 a.m. in the night and it's foggy, it's very risky. So make it a point to get a room in the hotel and stay there, and that of course works. That then you can come early in the morning and start have your breakfast and start working again. Right. So it was a pretty tough time, I will say that. But and it was a great team. It was a great learning for me, and I think it worked well from for everybody else also from their career point of view. The kind of learning all of us had. But I must thank everyone from that team that they supported me, and finally we were able to deliver.
Right. And you had a reputation of being very people oriented. You mentioned you managed a team of more than 125 over there in Soft Switch, and someone who used to take care of the team. In fact, people who worked with you told me that the fastest promotions happened in your team while working in Soft Switch. And yet, you were a no nonsense, hard driving manager. How did you develop this style, and do you still retain it, or have you changed over the years?
No, I wouldn't say that. I was a doer, undoubtedly, and I would like things to be done if we had made a commitment. And but some of the other adjectives that you used, I'm not sure whether they're correct or not. But let's say I will, if I have work to do, I'll do it, and I'll take help, and I'll figure out ways how to do stuff as such. And of course, let's say those days, and maybe not only those days, it's never easy to get all the resources or all the colleagues that you need for an engagement, even where customers are directly paying you for every person that comes on boarded. You don't get people on time. And here it was a product team where there's no matching of direct revenue with everybody coming on board. So it was always a challenge to get the right set of people in the team allocated in a timely manner. So and I somehow liked also liked working with fresh engineers coming from college. Right, they had the willingness, and they had the enthusiasm and the energy to put in work, right, and flexibility. And so a lot of I used to operate the product team with the leanest pyramid in the company. And so that means that everybody got plenty of opportunities to work and show their ability, and they will get promoted because of the learning curve was much faster, and their contribution was much faster, being while still being junior colleagues. They were in a position to contribute quite a bit. All right. And having a, let's say, leanest pyramid also gave me a flexibility of a good budget, which we were able to reward our team members who were working very hard at that point of time and tremendously contributing to the company's product business.
Right. Uh, Now, please forgive me for asking this, as it will be a long rant. But I've learned from sources while preparing for this interview that the SoftSwitch project ended up having a toxic work culture, which was in stark contrast to the rest of the HSS. Let me give you a few examples. It is alleged that you expected the team to work 14 hours a day until 10 p.m. in the night, and you alluded to the hotel bookings. Perhaps it was the need of the hour to work in a mission mode, but I heard that you would allegedly sit in the office till 8:15 p.m. in the evening and thus ensure that nobody dared leave the office at 8 p.m. when the evening buses used to depart. You allegedly micromanaged the bugs. You said that you love to work with the younger engineers. That corroborates that in a way. Uh, the bugs that were reported, and consequently, people started finger pointing at each other to ensure that somehow they should not own the blame for the crashes. Furthermore, I was told verbatim by a former engineer of the project that he used to tell Anna, the project manager, the mid-level manager over there, the following, that ulte latak jao but get the job done. And this was heard by the juniors. Do you think the soft switch project was a letdown for the HSS culture?
Wow, I never. I'll have to ask Annamalai what did I said. What did I say at that point of time, and what did it mean? Of course, as I said earlier, that we were working in a stretched mode, and that was after 9/11. It was the need of the hour. The business was down, right? And we had a customer who was willing to license their software, and the commitments have been made. But and it might have been unreasonable at some point of time, but I believe we had a great culture. We have everyone supporting each other, right? And so you can blame me maybe, but there are several other much better people. And let's say while you can maybe blame me, yeah, for whatever happened in the software, but then there were other very nice people in the team, and people like Ajay Goyal and Alok Vadera and Sunil Mahajan and Vikas Bajaj and of course Annamalai, right? And many, many more, right? All these were the real leaders in the team who was doing all that action. Of course, let's say when you look at it, and these are all very nice people, even everybody will vouch for them. Even I may not get that kind of approval from many, many people, but they will definitely get that, right? And of course, let's say we realized that initially that even if let's say we were about 120 people, and even if we allow everyone one mistake, the release will be delayed by 120 days, and that causes a day, right? And it will the release will get delayed by 120 days, and that can't happen, right? And so we used to meet every day in the morning and plan for the day, and when it's for integration, then looking at all the critical issues, and each one of those issues had to be resolved, and very close coordination was required, and um, because unless each of these dependencies are taken care of, we can't make progress. And maybe that was what you call as a close tracking or micromanagement, or whatever name you want to give it. That required that kind of coordination between different colleagues for us to deliver a meaningful and stable release.
So thanks, Gulshan. I applaud you for answering that question. I was half worried that there was a risk of you walking out of that interview and asking this question, saying the proverbial "dosti bani rahe," right? You remember that one, I'm sure. But thank you for
I
that.
didn't know. I didn't know I had an option of walking out of this. Otherwise, I could have.
That sent shivers down my spine. But let's change the mood a little. There's a peculiar incident which happened, didn't it? And I was wondering how you handled it or what exactly happened over there. Apparently, an engineer fainted in your cubicle once. You remember that one?
No, let's say, thankfully, nobody fainted in my cubicle, but it is correct that we had a release planned on, let's say, one of the release was planned, and all of us had, we used to order food from Dana Choga when we had a release, and because people are working, and we like it or not, every time. Uh, let's say that everything will stop working at 3 a.m. in the morning. And then couple of hours, we are all fighting to figure it out. What is the real bug that stopped something? And then we'll ship out the release at maybe 5:30 or 6 a.m. or whatever. So it was one of those days when we had a release due on that evening, and we were working, and we had ordered food, and so after having food, we started working, and one of our colleague, he stood up from his chair and lied down on the floor. That was harrowing for all of us, right? But thankfully, in a couple of minutes, he stood up and he said, "Oh, I'm fine." We asked him that, "Are you feeling comfortable? You want to go home?" And he said, "No, I'm fine. I was just feeling a little bit uncomfortable." That was quite a bit of unnerving thing. Thankfully, no such incident ever happened, or nobody uh, collapsed or fainted in my office as such. Otherwise, whatever you are blaming me for the toxic culture, you could have got more masala for that.
The intention was not that, just to recall the incidents which you went through, and those were the challenging times. But after the soft switch, in fact, before the soft switch or around that time, you were also instrumental in the usage of SAP, that Enterprise Resource Planning software, especially for the engineering. Uh, Tell us a story about how you, as an engineering leader, ended up getting entangled into the SAP usage, and what all interesting things happened there during those early 2000s.
Yeah, it was not SAP usage, but it was the SAP integration. The company had planned SAP integration, and uh, the uh, the team, the project system team, and the other, when they were designing the system, they the engineering team was worried that because people were talking about putting our project plan into SAP, right? And that means the whole working of the project engineering team will change. You are every assignment, every task you are putting into SAP and recording there and all those things. And so there is a lot of reluctance in the engineering team to adopt to that for genuine reasons, right? And engineering was getting a bad name. There were everybody else, people in HR, finance, and other who were part of the design team. They were blaming engineering team for the delay. I had some bandwidths available at that point of time, and Vinod asked me to take the lead from engineering in those design meetings. And when I worked with other colleagues, then I realized that what SAP needed was possibly the billing data, right, from engineering. And that can be done easily by building an integration with our timesheet that we were already using. Right, there was no need for engineering to change any of those processes, and so this simplified work for everybody quite a bit, not only from the engineering point of view, but from for the SAP implementation team. Several of the requirements that they had in mind, those are not to be implemented, and reducing their time for implementation. Right, and being part of the design team, I also got an opportunity to work on several other aspects of it. Let's say, be it having worked part of the delivery team responsible for a team, working with all those internal processes and system. I had a good understanding, or at least had also had my own views about what are the right things to be done or not. So I was able to influence those things as part of my role in the SAP team.
Right. So you
Yeah.
said you were able to influence the things. Uh, are you subtly trying to say that you face resistance and those kind of things?
No, not really. Resistance. I said influence means I'm not talking about only the engineering part of it, but the HR and let's say how will we do billing or reporting, creating invoicing for clients, right? Those aspects also I was able to participate and influence those things. Of course, as I said initially, the engineering team had a lot of concerns in terms of what will how will it is going to affect us. And when I spoke to Vinod about that, how we are finally implementing the solution and keeping the engineering processes intact, not affected by the SAP implementation, it was all fine from engineering perspective as well.
Excellent. And your glorious journey in HSS continued beyond the soft switch and the SAP projects. You were made the VP. You were managing a team of 1,400 plus software professionals, which was multi-location and distributed. You were doing superlative work in the area of multimedia apps, mobile VAS, UX, network consulting and integration. You were the guy who was known as a delivery guy. Yet in 2010, you had a sudden and an almost unceremonious exit. My notes tell me that you were heading a very big and prestigious handset project, presumably for AT&T, with a lot at stake for HSS, which had become Allison by that time. Apparently, the project ran into various challenges and delays, and that made the things difficult for you. Knowing you, you are not the one to run away from the battlefield. So I must ask you, and please forgive me for asking this, were you withdrawn from the battlefield by the bigger commanders and asked to make way for someone else? Or there's a different story to your exit from Allison?
Yeah, it's of course, yeah, it was quite an eventful engagement. Let's say it was it was a frog program, and initially we started as a staff augmentation team from Bangalore supporting frog for the engineering talent, right? And then the program manager from frog, we had I think put together some 30-40 people who were supporting the frog, and they were driving that engagement. And so the program manager from frog came to Bangalore, and we asked him that what is your exact plan, what is the timeline. And this was being done in agile mode. And so they will say, okay, now get me 4 more people, get me 6 more people, and this is how it was working in an ad hoc manner. And when we said, what is the exact plan? And the gentleman said that when we don't have people, how, what is the need for us to make a full plan? And then what we knew that AT&T, we had, let's say, as Edison and Frog, or a Frog and Edison, we had made a commitment of a timeline to AT&T. And I had never worked on an engagement where we don't even have a reasonable plan to deliver on the timeline that has been committed to the client. So we escalated issues with Ajay Gupta and Sanjay Dhawan, and then something transpired at the top end, and suddenly that hot potato was in our lap, and we became responsible for that engagement. The we flagged that the project is, and of course, we hugely underestimated that engagement. Let's say when I was, and we said that we should possibly tell AT&T that this project is going to be delayed, but nobody had the courage, and everybody wanted to watch and see what happens. And at one point of time, we shipped some 30 colleagues to Bellevue in Seattle, working in jointly with Samsung and Qualcomm, which were on the program. Right, that in the hindsight, that program was doomed to fail, because what was happening that earlier AT&T has an exclusive right to iPhone, right? They were the only distributor in US, and then Apple decided that in the following year they will also allow Verizon to sell Apple devices, right? And then AT&T had the background, that, let's say, thought process AT&T had in terms of building that handset program. So they thought that, oh, if it's, let's say, if the same device is coming from Verizon also, then we don't have any stickiness with the customers. So we should have our own experience. so that our clients, our customers are stuck with us because they are used to that experience. And so they thought they will be able to make another smartphone like iPhone. And that was the thought they had, and for which Samsung had brought in the new hardware, and it was on a Qualcomm Brew platform. So the Qualcomm Brew platform was unstable. The Samsung hardware was unstable, right? And of course, we were building the entire experience, and that has its challenges. So the integration, there was a huge problem in integration because everything was unstable. And when I was talking to some folks in Samsung, so they said we never, let's say, whenever we bring a new phone, what happens is that you change some part of it. Either you, let's say, you will normally you will take the same platform, you will enhance the camera, you will enhance the resolution, right? Or and you will make some minor changes in the software and bring out a new phone, right? And they had tens of thousands of people building software on the Samsung phone, which AT&T wanted some 120 people to deliver, right? And uh, so the Brew platform failed. Qualcomm, I think it was used only for one or two phones were released on Brew, and finally Qualcomm withdrew that Brew platform. Samsung had no interest in stabilizing it because they didn't want, they wanted to keep their own brand, and they just didn't want to lose Samsung brand for to AT&T. AT&T using their own brand, they were not interested in supporting that part of it. And of course, our software challenges. That means uh, why we were able to get reasonable money from AT&T because we were delivering releases. I know when we used to ship a release, I used to create a 6-page exception report to that. And so I remember Sanjay once said, "Oh, great!" He congratulated for the release delivery. I said, "Please look at that 6-page exception report before you congratulate, because there will be issues there." We had certain timely commitment on we used to deliver a monthly release to AT&T, and we were shipping that out, and uh, I used to create a 6-page exception report because several of so what is not tested and what is tested and what is in development, we used to prepare all that, and we were keeping it all transparent. Of course, I knew that possibly nobody's reading those 6-page exception report even in AT&T as such. And Sanjay Dhawan congratulated us for our release. Then I said, Sanjay, please have a look at the exception report. And I don't know whether AT&T is reading these reports or not, but it is going to bring in trouble someday, right? And then, of course, there were dynamics. This project was, as I said, was doomed to fail, and there were review at AT&T, and there were dynamics at the top management level at in Arisant, and Sanjay Dhawan left, and after Sanjay left, the program went back to Frog, and they wanted to do it the way they wanted to do it, and that was. And I remember that 16th December or 14th December, when I was getting relieved from Arisant, uh, that day the notification came that AT&T has capped that program. They killed that program. So it was, let's say, in the hindsight, uh, possibly nobody could have built a phone. Today, you look at it when the new releases come, how much investment goes into it. And it creates, let's say, creating a phone uh, of your own clients, apart from let's say Apple or Samsung of this world, is not it's not really possible. I'm sure AT&T would have also realized it. It was a great learning for us, for me, definitely, in terms of this was the agile program, and the way the commitment were made. And agile program will normally work when you have a mature team of everybody on the team starting day one. And but we had people joining every day as we were expanding and being thrown into part of agile teams, which was possibly not a reasonable thing to do. We had 20 agile teams working in parallel, and coordination of them was a challenge. We did introduce several practices which even our quality team said that these are not agile, but 20 agile teams, and we had to put some kind of an coordination between them was a challenge. And we tweaked the processes to include coordination between these different teams. And it's not just let's say and today when I look at it, the safe agile, the safe or framework, or the scaled agile, how this implementation has come. It's a great thing that was possibly the first agile program in Arisent. And after Sanjay left, that several other people from the CSP BU had a quick exit within 6 months. I think five of us, 6 people who were leading that BU left in a couple of months. And yeah, that's what it happened. So now you can call it. And we had options outside in the company, and we may not have liked it, but we did it.
Okay, so after your fantastic run at HSS, Electronic Software and Arisent, you joined Alcatel-Lucent in December 2010. And less than 4 years later, you joined Nagarro. I can understand why you joined Alcatel-Lucent as the head global delivery center for software integration, but why did you leave it to join, of all companies, Nagarro, which was rather a small player at that point of time, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. Alcatel-Lucent was a 14 billion euro company, right? And the problem with that company was that we were not growing, right? And 3 years and 10 months for which I was in Alcatel-Lucent, there were 4 reorganizations in the company, and 3 times everybody between me and the CEO changed. And once even the CEO himself got changed during those that short period that I had. And I was building a global delivery team in India, and this was for customer engagements, which were traditionally being done by country teams, directly delivering to their clients. And so every job that had to move to India, somebody had to lose a job in one of these European or countries or US or somewhere, which was a huge challenge, huge pushback for this model to succeed. And with company not growing, if companies are growing, then everybody has an opportunity to do something more, and nobody's worried about any changes like this happening, right? For a company which was not growing, and in fact, we had when the new CEO joined, he had a target that the 14, if I remember that number correctly, he had a target to shut down 14 large engagements of managed services which were losing money at that point of time. And every month he will send out a report that this year, he said, this month we restructured this deal, or this month we closed this particular engagement. So the environment was very negative. And then Nagarro was small at that time, just about 100 million business that we were doing, and but growing rapidly. And I got an opportunity, met Manas, who is the CEO, met him a few times. I found that this is going to be an exciting place, and I joined them.
And under your leadership as VP and Global Business Unit Head at Nagarro, and now as the Managing Director Nagarro, Nagarro has grown manyfold to become a billion-dollar organization. Please walk us through your magnificent, inspirational journey at Nagarro right from the day you stepped in till now, and what was the secret to making Nagarro a billion-dollar organization?
I have a very limited role in that billion euro business, right? Of course, Nagarro has provided me immense opportunities. So I was, when I joined the company, I was given responsibility for a quarter of the business that we were doing, which was small by other stand, but the other work that I had done previously, it's about a 25 million BU. And but I was doing different stuff. I was doing travel and aviation, doing the air delivering to airlines. Of course, telecom I was doing, which was not a very large business. I was doing gaming and entertainment, working with some of the clients who were building gambling applications, right? Doing life sciences and healthcare, and some of the large manufacturing clients where we were doing industry 4.0 and other stuff. So pretty different from what I had done all my life, just core telecom, that too on the network side. Here it was more like an application development, but brought a very different perspective, very different knowledge of several different industries. And and the company has been growing very well, and we have grown uh, roughly 10x over last 10 years.
Excellent. And with all of your experience as an engineering delivery leader, what would your advice be to any person who takes up this kind of a job in any company to increase his or her chances of success?
Yeah, let's say for me, I will do anything which is required to be done from me, right? So if let's say, was never quite choosy about the opportunities that I got either at CDOT or HSS or at Nagarro. I have done different things, and whenever I was offered an opportunity, I had taken that up and tried my best to deliver to them. And so I will the suggestion that will make will be that let's say do a good job, whatever you get to do, right? If you are putting all your energy and enthusiasm into it, you will succeed. And if you are succeeding, nothing succeeds like success. If you are putting enough all your effort, you are bound to succeed, and you will get all the opportunities that you need.
Awesome. And a lot of people have told me that you are a wizard at finance. Perhaps that's why you could not only manage your projects so well from delivery perspective, but also kept them profitable. There was a beeline at HSS I heard for you around the time when the income tax returns had to be filed. Did it ever occur to you to take up corporate finance as a career at HSS or elsewhere? And some people speculate that you could have easily become the CFO of an organization.
Okay. So let's say I had income tax, one of my paper in BCom honors when I did from SRCC, right? And I liked that paper really. In fact, that was in the second year. It was a 50-mark paper in 400 marks total, which was there. And I would have spent maybe 60% of time studying income tax paper compared to what I should have possibly done based on it has just 1/8 of the weightage of the total marks in second year, and I ended up spending 60% of my time studying that paper. And so I really enjoyed that part of it, and I will keep track of what is happening in the when the new budget will come or the new tax laws will come, and maybe I was able to understand and interpret, and I was able to see the numbers very well, right? I was able to let's say, correlate number and look at it and interpret results, right? And so maybe it's coming from a business family, then doing BCom, possibly I picked up this learning there, right? So always was careful about money and numbers, and yeah, and was able to yeah, make use of that learning.
Any expectations from the union budget this time, which is around the corner?
I don't have any expectations. No,
Okay, no
I will
speculation.
definitely, when the budget comes in, I will definitely read what is there, but not that I don't set any expectations from politicians of either hue.
Okay. So surprisingly, engineering and finance is not where you stopped. Looks like you're a legal eagle too, for you are now handling legal functions and contracts at Nagarro. How did you develop this legal expertise as part of your arsenal, and how's it been working out for you so far?
Yep. So I learned. I'll thank Pranav Roach. Pranav was our head of legal or in HSS in 1996. He was actually taking care of both HSS and HNS, and right, and we were drafting. That was the first time we were building that protocol stack, that product that Nagarro had to, sorry, Aris HSS had to license, and so I and CP Murli will go to Pranav's office. Pranav used to sit in HNS office in Nehru Place, right, ITT, and uh, I used to live in Rohini, and CP used to live in I think somewhere in Trans Yamuna area, and so we will in the evening after doing our job at Gurgaon, we will go to his office, and then he will grill me in terms of what exactly are we doing in that product. He'll ask me certain questions. Okay, what are you doing it? What is inside this product? How will clients use it? What will be its interfaces? How will you license it? What right you will give it to them? What right you will keep it to with yourself? And I used to think based on whatever knowledge I had, I used to answer this to him. And then I picked up how a license has to be drafted. What are the things that you need to worry about it? And as part of product delivery, when we started using open source and we are getting issues, we are getting clients asking us that what kind of open source you are using. So I was reading those licenses of open source in terms of what is permissible to use, how exactly were these used, and build some kind of an understanding around this, right? And uh, so I also, let's say, when doing client contracts, and by the way, a client contract is 75%, 80% is commercial terms, right? It's not so much of a legal language, but your ability to, let's say, marry the legal language with the engineering or technical knowledge is useful. And I was able to do that as such. And I think one of the RFPs we were doing together, I and it's a large RFP for my client, and uh, uh, Manas, who is our CEO, he was taking responsibility to handle the pretty complex contract. He was handling the legal questions to the client, and we had several meetings, and one of the meetings he was reaching late because he had other commitment, and he was reaching in the afternoon while the legal discussion was planned in the first half. And then sitting at Munich airport, I was taking a dump on the open issues and trying to understand that what are the issues that we need to address and how are these to be addressed, what is his thought process around it. So maybe I can speculate that after that meeting, we were still a small company, and we didn't have a very defined legal function at that point of time. There were some people, junior people, who were taking care of it, and the company was growing. And then Manas asked me that, why don't you take uh, responsibility of the legal function and organize this? I thought it's primarily going to be a program management job. and I'll set up the processes, I'll hire people. I did all that. But then I also started negotiating client contract directly, and rightly or wrongly, I didn't do bad there. So I managed those well, negotiated some very complex contract to reasonable requirement for Nagarro, putting together the requisite policies, the playbooks, and the other thing like what I have been doing all along was to hire smart people who are better than me and build a great team. And and the company continued to grow. And over while 3 4 years, I was doing a multiplexing between my business role and legal role. But as the company grew and we got listed, we were preparing to get listed, and we did several acquisitions across the globe. This job became a lot more complex and demanding. And finally, about 4.5 years, I fully moved into the legal team. So I have now the legal team is about, I think, 16, 17, 15, 16 people. Managing this function across the globe. Larger part of it is in India, but we have colleagues in Germany, in Romania, in US, and we have several consultants who support us part-time need basis across the globe. So interesting journey, new experience every day, a new client, right, a new transaction, a new interaction, a new learning. So earlier I used to really be afraid of going for client negotiations, right? But now, after negotiating some 500 contracts over last 6 7 years or maybe more, so it's not that difficult. But still, I every time I have a meeting, I prepare well for it, right? And I try to whatever I learn in one interaction, I try to use it subsequently, right, in our processes. And yeah, interesting one. Never anticipated or never thought that I'll be able to do this. It was not even in my dreams, but I started doing it and didn't fail.
Right. Dreams need people just like people need dreams. And clearly, you have done very well. I'm sure you have made more than enough money during your long, scintillating career at C. HSS, ALU, and now at Nagarro. Surely you're not in the game for money, are you? That wish must have been long fulfilled forever. So, what is it that inspires you and keeps you going instead of going on a world tour and settling down on some lovely island?
Yeah, I think you have been misinformed. I have not made enough money to go around the world enjoying and settle in a lovely island, right? Of course, let's say as long as there is interesting work, I will do that. And I don't have many interests which will distract me. So if I have work, I'll do that. And I think maybe that is the easiest option for me to keep myself busy, right? But I wish I had a lot of money like you think of, and then I was able to settle in a lovely island, but not to as of now.
All right, we'll take it at its face value. But there might be layers to that, but we'll leave it at that. But surprisingly, no one seems to know anything about your personal life. Perhaps you kept your distance in this regard from everyone, and perhaps due to your stoic, no nonsense personality, people never dare to ask you about your personal life at all. I'm sticking my neck out, but requesting you to tell us something about your family, how you've raised your children. Are they just like you? What are your passions and hobbies which you're really fond of?
So let's say everybody in my team and everybody at HSS or Edison, let's say my wife and my daughter, they will come for every function where the families were invited, right? And a lot of people in my team even know my daughter's name and what she's doing, and and she's in the fourth year of her engineering. She's doing her BTech in computer science from VIT Chennai, and it's her eighth semester now. and my wife is a homemaker. So she was teaching before we got married, and she's still teaching, but now she has only two students, me and my daughter.
Right, and I'm sure you quite naughty students as well. But
No, no, I'm
it's
a
been
very serious one. You give me a job and I'll do it.
absolutely, and you've been proving this throughout your career. So congratulations. But it's been a privilege talking to you, ladies and gentlemen. The very suave army person, like a giant engineering delivery leader, a finance wizard, and a legal eagle. We have been in conversation with Gulshan Kumar, the stalwart from HSS, and currently the managing director at Nagarro.
Yeah, thank you, Prashant, and it was great talking to you. And love you as always. I need to learn some of the flowery language that you are able to use, or to maybe I'll take some classes from you. And thank you so much.
The pleasure was all ours, Gulshan. Thanks a lot.
Mutual, yeah, ours is correct for both. Thank you.